Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be painting with gloss sprays and building up some layers of colour using a collage paper. So this is a collage tissue paper from Niamh Scrapbooking. It came with all that text on the side. It's a landscape printed one. I decided that I didn't necessarily want to have that text at the side, so I tore it out. But I did decide I wanted to sort of add it on to the bottom as a little bit of like a dress, I suppose. I didn't really bother me that it was going the text was going the opposite direction, because I knew I was going to be painting over it anyway. I just wanted to have that sort of texture in the background. So I've just used my gel medium to glue that onto the page, making sure it's nice and dry. And then I'm going to go in with my gloss sprays to paint my image. So my go-to colours at the moment for painting skin are using Blushing and Sedona. Now, if you didn't have these gloss sprays, you could certainly use watered down acrylic paints. You can use fluid acrylics. Lots of brands do fluid acrylics. You can get fluid acrylic medium that you can add to acrylics to make your own colours. There's lots of different ways that you could do this. If you wanted to use watercolours, you would just need to put like a clear gesso or a watercolour primer over the top of this image and do the same sort of thing. I just like the gloss sprays in the fact that they work very similar to watercolors, but when they dry they're permanent, so I can sort of dry it, build up a layer, dry it, build up a layer, and I can sort of see where I'm going, but I don't need to worry about moving the layer underneath. So each layer is going to be permanent. So once I sort of put in my base coats for my face, I'm then going in and painting her top or her dress or whatever you fancy it is. I decided to use the blue. It's sort of a bit of a contrast between her skin tones. So that Sedona has quite an orangey red colour to it. So I thought sort of contrast between the oranges and the blue would be a nice way to go on this page. Once I'd done that, I was sort of thinking, oh, what colour am I going to do the hair? I really wasn't sure. So I broke out my Gilt gloss spray. So this is a metallic gold, and this gave me a really nice undertone to the hair. So again, the good thing about this is you can sort of build up. It didn't give me much variety from the background though. I then went over with some of the Sedona, but I wanted to stay away from that in the fact that I had it on the skin tone as well. But again, it gave me a warm undertone underneath that I could build upon. I actually then broke out some of my acrylic paints. So this is a colour called Syrup. This colour is quite translucent, so it actually works really, really well with the gloss sprays. Gives you kind of the same effect. And you can see I'm sort of using light brush strokes with this. I'm not filling in the entire area. I am just putting in like little highlighty bits. Now, I am not by any stretch of the imaginations an expert on how to do hair, so please go and find someone who is, if it's something you struggle with. But I have found for me that just doing this, sort of building up a background color and then sort of doing brush strokes over the top and so on, has helped for me. Once I had put the hair colour on, I had a little bit of paint left on my brush, and I used that as a little bit of a dark on the girl's face to add a little bit of a shadow as well. Now I'm just going in and colouring in the irises, so you've got that little bit of a focus on the page, and putting in a little bit of a red lip. And then I'm building up some highlights with the distress watercolor crayons, or pencils, sorry, I keep calling them crayons. So this is just adding in that little bit of white. And again, I could have used a white paint to do this, but I like the fact that this is a little bit more see-through. It's got a little bit more of that translucency and building up the layers, unlike the if I'd used, say, a Posca paint pen, it would be a very liney, which I wanted to avoid. Now I'm just going in with some of the other colours, again It's just like putting colour pencil over the top of this. It's just giving a little bit of depth to the piece that you've got. Because I wanted to bring in some of those goldish colours and highlights from before, I'm going back in with my gold gloss spray to give a little bit of glitz and glamour to her hair. This goes on really, really metallic. It does dry a darker colour, but it still has that metallic flair to it. So when you sort of tip up the page, you can see it catch the light, which I really like. Now I'm going in with my Stabilo oil pencil just to darken up her lips and put a little bit more definition into her face and around her hair and so on, especially around her body, give it a little bit more shape as well. So it does look a little bit heavy-handed. If you find that it's too heavy for you, you can always use a little bit of water or a wet wipe it away to balance it out a little bit. I'm going in with a purpley colour again, just to add a little bit of depth and shading underneath the dress. So you can see me sort of putting it down and then rubbing it with my fingers a little bit. If you've got one of those stump blenders, you could certainly use that. I just find if I've got my fingers there, I'll use that. So it's easy. Now I am going in and writing a quote on my page. And I have chosen one about change from Pinterest, and the way it was written was it had the title written in cursive at the top, and then in block letters underneath it written the quote. So I decided to do something similar, and I'm writing my quote directly across my image. So there's not much happening in that bottom part of the page. Obviously I'm not going to write across her face, but because this is quite a big quote, I was more than happy to write over some of her hair and some of her dress and some of her arm. It sort of balanced it up a little bit. And, you know, you can see obviously on both these pages I've got bigger quotes than sometimes I usually do, and I've written across the images. So for me, the quotes, if I've chosen to put a quote in my journal, it's usually for a reason. So I don't mind if it goes over the artwork. Because if I've written a quote, obviously it's something I need to tell myself or read. So that for me is the most important part of the page. Same with journaling, you know, if I need to journal something and need to read it, well, that'd be the main part of my page. If it's something I'm just sort of getting off my chest, I'll put it in the background and then stencil and put an image over the top of it to hide it. So if I've got readable text on the page, it's usually there for a reason. And that goes for most people, I think. But don't be afraid to write over your images, you know. Once you've painted them, you can still see them. I can still see what's happening behind that quote, so I don't need to hide from it. The quote itself is written in a metallic silver pen. So it's really, really bright on the page, and also echoes some of those warm highlights I put in her hair. So you've got this sort of metallic-y, colour shifty thing happening in the background. I'm just got these pens, so I'm using them on everything, and I'm really enjoying using them. They're really opaque, and it just gives me something really bright on the page. So, you know, everyone's got a love affair with white pens. Some work, some don't. I'm finding silver is working on everything at the moment. So you may find more silver in my artwork these days. So here is a close-up. You can see the font, you can see the shading around the face, the layering of the colours, you can see the shimmer in the hair. Using tissue papers or collage papers in the background as your basis to do things like this is really, really handy, particularly if you don't feel confident in drawing figures. It gives you that template in the background, and using translucent paints to go over the top, again you can see where all the shading is, so you can see where you need to put your darks and your lights. So again, it's sort of building your confidence in doing your artwork. So I hope you have a go with doing this. Until next time, bye for now.